I've been thinking a lot about this week, well, for months now, things that go on in the world, and all the different ways in which people interact, and some of them horrific, and some of them great, and some of them all those places in between, creating this adventure that we call life. And so I keep thinking about all this stuff, and I come back to a basic principle that we have here, which is what you embody manifests. What you embody manifests. I've been thinking about that a lot. What I embody manifests. What you embody manifests. And what does that mean? What does it mean to say that? It means that the totality of how we think about things, how it actually gets into our bones, what really is in our cells, not our minds, but in the cells of our beingness, is actually what shows up in our lives. And that doesn't mean that if you embody peace, all of a sudden the world's going to be at peace, because there are lots of other people who haven't embodied peace. And so that's happening too. But you, in the midst of all that, can feel more peaceful. That's what's possible, right? That what you embody, you get to experience in the midst of whatever it is that's going on out here. And then in some ways, out here does shift if we embody deep enough. And on what level it shifts or how that shifts or whatever, I haven't figured any of that stuff out. But I do have a real sense of our impact on life from what we embody, and on our own bodies from what we embody, right? If you want to know what's going on, and the problem with saying, I've been thinking about this a lot, which is if I say, if you want to know what's going on in your life, look at what you've embodied, look at what you've got. A lot of people, the first place they go to is blaming themselves, right? Because then what you've embodied is blame, which is what most of us grew up with, because the first time we did anything wrong, our parents were like, who did that? I saw, Ash showed me these videos of these dogs, right? Dogs. And where there'd be two dogs in the room, and the owner would be going, who did that? Who made that mess? And one of the dogs would kind of look away. Or in this one, it actually pointed to the other dog. Blame, right? We're full of it. Oh, are we full of it? Oh, yeah. Blame. And so that's the place most of us go to when we talk about what you embody manifest, is blame and shame and, I'm not doing this well enough, I'm not doing this good enough. And then once you do that, that's actually what you continue to embody. So that there's these layers of embodiment that if we're not looking at, if we're not willing to continue to drop down to the next layer of, so I have this in my life. What is going on with that I may be blaming myself for, or thinking I, created? And in some way, even though it's true that we did create whatever it is that's going on in our lives, most of it's happening so unconsciously. Most of it's happening on layers. Yeah, we have a lot of stuff that goes on in this world simply because everybody believes it's true. And so if everybody, and we have another tenet here, right? You've heard me say a lot of times, which is what you focus on, you give power to. And so we keep focusing on this thing that everybody believes is true, and thus it actually shows up that way. We experience it like that, and it doesn't get to shift. And I think that has to do more with what goes on in the world as a whole, as we have this collective consciousness that gets into a focus of believing a particular thing, and then that's our experience. When people believed the world was flat, it wasn't that it actually was, but people experienced it that way. There were actually stories about people falling off the edge of the world. Did somebody really do that? Maybe. I don't know. I wasn't there. But on the other hand, the odds are That people just believe that so much. And, if you're living on top of a mountain and you walk out and are sure that's the edge of the world, yes, you're going to fall off if you take another step, right? And so it's also a matter of how you perceive your reality that's going on in front of you. And so when it comes to disease, when it comes to the things that are going on in our personal life, poverty, diagnosis, it is what we embody really can shift all that stuff. And it is that if we are blaming ourselves and thinking, oh my God, I'm doing something wrong here for this to have shown up, we're on the wrong track already. We're already going down a dead-end path because that path only leads to blame and shame. And so where's the right path? Where's the path that actually could lead to healing and everything? Well, it's a difficult one. My walk has been a very difficult one. I'm turning 70 and I'm still trying to figure some of this stuff out. Some of it is still it's coming to me faster these days, which is incredible and I'm really happy about. And so I find myself shifting quicker. And a lot of it just has to do with being gentle with me. How gentle can I get with myself around when I do something that, maybe didn't work out so well. And what I notice is the more gentle I get with me, the more gentle I wind up being with others. I just was told just yesterday that I am less harsh. Well, that means that started with me being less harsh with me. I know that's how that worked. I just started not getting on my case so much. And in doing so, what happened was they stopped getting on other people's cases so much. Isn't that funny how that works? How that all plays together? What I embody is something different for me, and then all of a sudden it shows up, and that's how things start integrating and working around me. Thus, an embodiment shifts. Now, how does that embodiment shift? It really shifts the same way I learned guitar. And I may have told you all this before, but I'm going to tell you again because we got this foundations class starting, and I'm thinking, man, this is the perfect time to be talking about this is the way in which it works, right? Here's how it works. I want to get better at a guitar lick. And the first time I play it, I suck at it, right? So I keep practicing, and I keep practicing. And then I start getting it. And I even start getting it into the rhythm I want to be playing it in. And I'm playing it, and I'm practicing, and I'm practicing. And then all of a sudden, I notice the day comes when it happens. And I didn't have to think about it anymore. That's embodiment. If you want to know what embodiment is, it's the day you don't have to think about it anymore. I hear a lot of people talk about mindfulness and being mindful and this and that, and that's true, that's the practice, but the result is sooner or later you don't have to be mindful of it anymore because your body's doing it by itself, and that's embodiment. That's when you've actually reached that place of embodiment, when your body's doing it without you even thinking about it. Like moving my fingers. Somebody now says to me, play a D chord. I don't have to go D chord. That has these. I don't have to do that. Just go boom, right? Somebody on the other hand says to me, play a C flat 9 with a flat 5 in it, and I still have to think about it. Oh, wait, what was that you just said? And work that out. And that's the way it is with consciousness too. So we can know where we are by what's happening by itself in our bodies. That's embodiment. If you still have to think about it, you have not embodied it yet. It takes a lot of classes and going through these practices to get to a place of embodiment, at least that it's true for me. And so we keep at that, and I notice it. How much quicker it comes to me to be gentle. How much easier it comes to me to go, okay, this is what it is, and I don't need to get upset about this. That personally, I can be in this world that has horrific things happening, that has incredible things happening, and not get swept away by it like I used to. I used to get really swept away by the drama of my life and the world. I don't anymore. I still feel deeply, but I'm not swept away. You know the difference? Can you feel the difference of what I'm talking about? Between swept away by your drama in your life and feeling it without being swept away, but being able to stay in that place of, okay, this is part of my adventure. This is part of life. This is part of what we get to experience here. Can you feel the difference? No? Because I'll explain it more if you can't. Because I want you to feel the difference. It's really important that you're just not hearing my words, but that you actually feel the experience of the difference between feeling life and being swept away by it. When all of a sudden, you're in a rush. If you're in a rush, you're being swept away by it. If you feel urgent, you're being swept away by it. Right? If you have the wherewithal to go, hold on a second, let me give this a moment, then you're not being swept away by it. Take a breath. Taking a breath in the midst of chaos is the greatest gift you can give yourself, for starters. Right? That's that first step. It's in the midst of chaos. Or am I the only one in this room that experiences chaos in life? So we've got all these things going on, things we fear, things we worry about, things we have concern about, things we're sure need to be different. And we can be swept away by them, or we can get to a place of, okay, this is mine to pray about. This is mine to get into this spiritual practice about. Because if I can get back to that centered place, at least then I'm adding centered place to life itself. Otherwise, what you're adding to life is drama. Right? That's your choice at any given moment, is to add to life in that moment your centered self, which means that's what, do you understand what I'm saying? That's an energy. It's not just you. It's not just what you'll do with that. It's an energy itself that is then in life. With all the other energies that are going on, don't add to the one that is already dramatic, right? Be the one that gets centered. That's what we teach in class, how to do that, how to grab hold of yourself, how to move forward. That's why I love these classes so much. We have this incredible thing, for me, this is incredible, happening in October this year. We not only have a foundations class, but at the same time we have 2 other classes going that are by invitation only. And those classes are the Advanced Consciousness Studies class and Practitioner Training. And we got all 3 going on starting this fall. And the beauty of it is all those folks who took the Foundations class last year had the opportunity to then walk through all the classes to then be invited into these 2 that are also happening this fall. That they are putting in the work. They have no idea what they're in for in terms of these 2 classes. There's a reason it's called advanced. But it's the practice, right? So we move through this practice. We take it into the moments we need it most. The moments when somebody's yelling in your face, like I talked to you about last week, when they were yelling at me and having Ash and I and they were yelling at me on Zoom. They're yelling at me so loud that Ash heard it in another room and came in and was breathing with me, so that we could just stay calm in the midst of it. And it was great. How it turned out, by the way, is great because I didn't get defensive. For a minute. I got defensive for a minute, but then I caught myself and got back to being straight, right? Because what I want to add to this world is that centeredness, that centered me, that kind, compassionate me. And I do it for my sake because it certainly feels a lot better to be that, and I do it for the sake of others. But it starts here. With me, calm, relaxed, right? Being that which does not get defensive in the face of whatever is coming at me. It's not like I've healed all my triggers. I've healed some. I can clearly feel the difference, right, in my body. And that embodiment, right? The place I check most for embodiment is in my body. How's my body doing? How's my body doing with all that's happening, all that's going on? And am I, responding? Am I getting tight? Am I feeling it this way? And I check here. I check here. I check my shoulders, my neck, my head. I check in. It's a big deal. If your body is feeling more relaxed, and my shoulders used to be up to here, man. And I was ready for a fight at every turn. That was who I was. It's extraordinary to me, the difference that's possible with practice, right? But you got to start with that first riff. You got to start with, okay, this is what the first step is. This is how we begin. And then you practice it again and again and again. I'm a slow learner. It's taken me, I've been at this since my, 30 years, 40 years. But this is what's possible. What you embody manifests. First step in that is stop blaming yourself. That's actually the first step, because it's the easiest place to go when you say those words, right? And so there's this whole way of being with yourself, allowing yourself to be who you're being, allowing yourself for this to unfold, being gentle with yourself. And the more you can do that, the more you find yourself doing that with others. It happens automatically. It has for me, I promise. The more we work with ourselves, the more it manifests out here. The kinder you become. The more you become this conscious being who's adding that energy and consciousness to the planet instead of the drama that we've been swept away with most of our lives. Or maybe I'm the only one who's been swept away by drama. I don't know. But that's what's possible. Right? That's what we're all working in. That's what we're all working towards. Because otherwise, I don't know why you'd show up here. Right? We did this incredible thing this year. This year we had like twice the students in classes that we had the year before. Our mission is to teach spiritual practices that create joy-filled lives, and we're actually fulfilling our mission. We're doing what it is we came here to do. And so we have people in this room. The beauty of you can see the progression of folks who have gone through all this, and that their desire to keep growing is why we have 3 classes this fall instead of just 1. This is how it happens. People want to keep growing. I know that you do. I know that you do. I know that each of you wants that for yourself, to grow, whether you do it in class or outside. I don't want to sound like I'm hawking classes up here. It's just that I get so darn excited about them and about how I see people's transformation occur and what it keeps doing for me, how I keep changing. I can't imagine this evolution that has occurred for me, that like there's some end point to it, right? Maybe that's possible. I'm a guy who's open to all kinds of possibilities, so maybe there is that Buddhist space of like, okay, this is it, I'm here now. But I'm not even caring about that. I care about the evolution for myself that keeps unfolding. That is way more important to me than whether there's an end to any of this, right? The more I can in any given week find what practice I need so that I can continue to evolve, that has made for me the magnificence of what my life has become. And everything else has come out of that. Being here with you, the fantastic trip we had in Whitehorse, the different things that go on when I interact. You know, my space is opened up again, so if there are folks out here who want to get together, who want to have coffee dates, go for walks, do that kind of stuff, just get together and talk, I'm really open to that and would love it, by the way. So take advantage of that, please, because it's fun for me. When we get together on a more personal level. Sometimes some of you want to talk to me in the back of the room, and this isn't the space for that. But it is the space to say, hey, let's get together. Let's get together and sit down and have coffee, go for a walk, get into the woods, or whatever. So let's get together. I'm available. You know, I'm here for you. And I love that I am. I love that we have this opportunity with each other. We all have an opportunity in life to stretch beyond, evolve beyond, grow beyond where we are. And when we do that, we will see the evolution of what happens out here. What you embody manifests. It will embody out here. It will show itself when it's in your bones. Before it's in your bones, it's practice. Once it's in your bones, practice the next thing. There's always something else to practice. I'm constantly looking at my growing edge. What is my next? Where's my next edge? How do I practice into that? I never stop and say, okay, I learned the D chord, I'm done now. Right? I got it now. I used to do that. There was a time in my life when I did that. But now I see all I do is, okay, I got the D chord, let's go after the next one. Let's get that C flat 5, flat 9 in there. Let's get it. Let's go after that now. Or whatever my growing edge is. Mine lately has been the nuance of communication. I'm a fairly blunt guy who's learning how to be the nuances of communication. That is my growing edge. What is yours? You want to know what it is. You want to know your growing edge so that you can then be working on that. If you think you got it down and no growing edge, how are you growing? How is your evolution happening if all you're doing is sitting there going, I got it? Right? It doesn't matter how beautiful life is or how hard life is. There's a growing edge you can be using to grow. Without any blame, without any shame, just the next riff to practice. So that is my action item for this week for you. Get your growing edge, practice your riff, and grow. Because it's beautiful. And it's a way in which it shows up out here. It's the energy we put into the world, and it will ultimately. That is the power that we have on our impact on the world and on our own lives. Thank you. I love you.